Okay, and that's recording. Yeah, phones are almost $1,000 now. Or
Yeah,
most
they're
phones are. Yeah,
That one definitely hit over 1,000.
I bought it used off Craigslist, off some shady guy
Smart.
in North Van.
Very smart.
But it was good. It's got the best camera, so I figured like because of Max, like you want to have a good camera for.
Yeah.
Anyways. So we have 3 people on today. We have Josh
I'm back.
and
Again.
we have Lorraine.
Hello.
So we've never had Lorraine on the podcast before, so that's kind of cool. They came to train at our Cafe Sang.
Yes, I love it. Cafe Sang. Even though I'm not having a coffee right now. But I was offered a coffee.
Showers and coffees are free.
I took the
or
shower.
included.
Shower's the best part.
Yeah. So how was training today, Lorraine? This is the second time you've come to the Cafe Sang training facility.
Yeah, it was good. Just jumping into some of the restraint drills is definitely still new to me because I've taken such a long break from you guys. But it's good because I get to just even watch first and not really sure some of the rules, but I just jump in and do whatever, and then you guys tell me what's illegal.
What's illegal? When you're going to be able to come back? Is it just a scheduling issue?
Well, usually on Sundays, because it's moved to 10 o'clock, it conflicts with the other time, the other appointment that I have. But if it's at 11, I can potentially make
So
that.
blame Owen.
Yeah, it's Owen's fault.
Yeah.
You blame Emery. It's just keeping it off.
Your baby is ruining my training.
No.
That's what it is.
But Wednesdays, if it's noontime, I'll try my best. But it's just kind of like stacked in the middle. It makes it a little bit harder.
Yeah. How often are you training at your place with?
Right now, twice a week.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think like 2 to 3 training sessions a week is largely all you need, as long as you make it efficient training and you're not just like farting around too much. But I mean, sometimes that's tough too because depending on, I'm fortunate that I kind of get to be in charge of my own training, so you can do what you want and you guys have to do what I want.
That's okay.
But
you want to do it.
Yeah, but if you're at something where they run a curriculum that doesn't work for you, then it can be challenging. But that's good. 2 or 3 days on the mats is all you really need. Mm-hmm. How many days are you're teaching every day for Taekwondo?
No, not every day. Usually about 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
But classes really just run 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay. Actually, for those of all those listeners that don't know you, you give us a brief introduction. What do you do, and your martial arts kind of experience? Because Master Tong is here.
Yes. Well, I train Taekwondo, and I run a Taekwondo studio where it's just all kids, and mainly kids and adults have definitely been interested in joining classes and stuff like that. The preschool program definitely is a newer one. And
preschool?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, you can thank Logan for that one.
Oh, yeah?
I feel like he's like the catalyst for that almost.
Yeah, so Logan, along with another kid named Hunter, he's like 3, but his dad already was like eyeing this, like, he's 2. When can he start joining?
Oh, okay.
And so at that point, I was like, 2 is a little bit young. It's kind of hard to, even give instruction or have an attention span. So at 3, I said, okay, that's a pretty good age to start. So
Really?
Yeah.
My son doesn't listen.
Depends on the kid.
Yeah, he doesn't listen at all. He's like 3 and a bit, but maybe someday.
I don't know. Maybe, just maybe, he would listen to someone who's not his mom and dad. That's why.
I
think he just bullies you guys. He just knows.
He bullies Jen for sure.
So
Yeah.
I don't think he could bully people he doesn't. I'm not saying he could. Just maybe he'd be less inclined.
Yeah, maybe stranger danger. Actually, that kid has no stranger danger. Oh, that's cool. How long has your studio been?
It's been running for that location itself about 8 months now.
Oh, okay.
But otherwise, I've been teaching at a different location, just a temporary one for basically ever since COVID started.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2020-ish?
Yeah. So when things got kind of stable, then I was able to resume some classes.
Mm-hmm.
The students just were eager to get back, so I had to figure out a space to accommodate all of them.
Yeah.
When did you start practicing Taekwondo?
Back in high school, actually. So it's like, long story short, really, I was just gonna do it for one summer because my friend asked me to.
Yeah.
But I guess it caught on to me, and the instructor said like, oh, you're progressing well enough to perhaps promote at a certain point, like really soon. And I was like, it's not harmful to continue. And
Right.
Here we are, flash forward, like, let's not date ourselves here. A good
How
decade.
old are you?
I am 37, so I am old man balls. But
So
that's
am I.
okay.
Oh, man.
That's cool. Where did you start Taekwondo?
I started at Wu's Taekwondo School, and
That's a pretty well known one, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I've heard the name, but I don't know any details.
they're the biggest one in Richmond, but they have
Okay.
branch schools. So
Yeah,
I started off in the Vancouver one, and then I don't know, one summer became many summers.
Does your friend who got you to start still train?
No,
Yeah.
Always like that. Always like that. It's like Alan. How Alan came to jiu-jitsu, right? That's what you told me?
Alan?
Alan.
Alan Vuong?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came to you.
Well, because Jen brought him, right?
Yeah, well,
and
I
then
mean,
Jen's like,
yeah.
I'm gone.
I mean, she did have a child and stuff, but
Well, we didn't know that at the time.
oh, okay, you just
Right?
figured, yeah.
Because
That's
it
funny
was
how
very
that works,
hush-hush until, like,
Yeah.
by the way, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Can't hide it.
big gut.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Hey,
yep.
it's always the case where they get you to start and then they peter out. But that's good. It's good. So you've been doing it for a number of years. That's pretty cool. Was it your first martial art?
It is actually. So I never had any exposure to martial arts at all, and
Right.
I thought I'd just be like, oh, this is another form of exercise that I'd take on. But I guess I was really inspired by the people that came before me,
Yeah,
and seeing them compete, that was really cool. So that's something that I got into myself.
Yeah.
But over the years, like, I have considered retirement out of competition. So that was probably a bad choice because now I'm thinking about going back.
Right.
And
Okay.
it's hard
Miss
to-
it?
I think I do, but there's bigger challenges. Just
Right.
doing the comeback, like making the comeback, is definitely a
Sure.
really uphill climb here.
Okay. How does competition in Taekwondo work? Is there rule sets, organizations, styles? I know there's I've heard the term like WTF,
Mhm.
and then I think there was NTF.
Yeah,
Is
very
that
close.
okay.
Very close. So there's WTF, which is what it used to be called, but now because of the, abbreviation, and it's gotten a lot of comments.
Yeah.
So it just changed to WT.
WTF. Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah. So WT is
Okay.
the formal name for it now. That's the one I currently study.
Yeah.
But the other one is ITF.
ITF. Okay.
Whether they changed it to IT or ITF, that I'm not too sure. I don't
Right.
keep up.
ITF is not offensive. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Why the
So-
face?
Yeah, so there's definitely a federation for it, and it's mainly sanctioned by Koreans. There's a headquarters for it.
Yeah.
So everything, all the rules, they update it. I think they try to do it annually,
Yeah.
but that gets challenging because it doesn't get communicated once it
Right.
gets released. So we have to kind of like sneak our way through and
Yeah.
learn all of.
So is
okay.
the WT rule set the Olympic rule set?
That's one, yeah. So
Okay, yeah,
WT is the Olympic style sparring,
Yeah.
the one that's in
Okay.
Olympics, and then but the bigger one now is the forms.
Okay.
So it's called Pumse, and
Okay,
it's definitely grown a lot bigger in
Yeah.
the last, I'd say, like maybe 6 to 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely grown a lot, but and Canada is still trying to catch up to the world. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
the Asian countries, they're super far ahead.
Yeah. Did you do Taekwondo?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
Jiu-jitsu is my first martial art.
I did
To
Taekwondo as a
practice.
kid.
Yeah.
I think at the time, I mentioned this before. I did it out at the Stevenson Community Center. I think it was ITF or maybe NTF. I know it wasn't WTF because that's how I know, because I remember that was not the one I was doing. But yeah, it was good. I did it at the community center. So I think that was my first martial art. So drastically different than jiu-jitsu, I'm assuming. It's always cool to other like martial arts is just more organized, man. Like we talked to Ben, and judo's more organized, wrestling's more organized.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is just
It's a lot less.
yeah, it's just like a
Rock stars.
Yeah, it's a rodeo.
Anything goes, right?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, there's a lot of rule sets and stuff. I mean, the major ones, the IBJJF, but it's, I guess maybe that's one of the things that's holding back. If you want to be an Olympic sport, you have to be like you need like regionals or sanctionals or one rule set where people know what the heck's going off. So you don't have guys being like, you can't knee bar, stuff like that. But yeah, that's cool. So, you have your own place. How do you find it? Jiu-jitsu compares in terms of like, because Taekwondo has obviously been around longer and it's more established and it's an Olympic sport, definitely more organized and structured. Doing jiu-jitsu is it kind of like,
it's way different. So I get to stand up on my feet. That's, predominantly what I like to do.
Yeah.
But once I get on the ground, when I first started, I was very lost. I'm like, I don't want to be here. Like,
right.
I definitely want to get back up.
Yeah.
But way different for sure.
Yeah.
But I think movement wise, it does somewhat carry over in a sense where, okay, well, if you got to be explosive in this move, then
Sure.
you can do that. But otherwise, it's a big learning curve so far.
Yeah. Jiu-jitsu is hard. Not as hard as judo, but it's still hard.
Oh, judo. Why did I start judo?
Yeah, I don't know. That's
Blame Owen.
yeah.
He's a catalyst for a lot of. That's the reason I came to jiu-jitsu. Was Owen actually?
Yeah. Why did you start jiu-jitsu because of personal interest, or did these guys rope you into it, or?
I think it was half and half, but I've always wanted to start learning a different combat martial art.
Right.
But just time commitment wise, I could never pull myself away from Taekwondo because any extra time I have would go towards more Taekwondo.
Yeah.
Or other commitments that just doesn't allow for different martial arts. But at some point, I just put my foot down. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get pummeled if I don't know how to be on the ground. So, and that's when Josh talked about like AmpFit and you guys running it out of the gym. So,
yeah. Bush League grassroots style. That's the way we roll.
Yeah, but I think I almost think it's more accessible that way.
Yeah.
Because people don't. I know. Okay, this maybe goes against the whole idea of where we were talking about structure and whatnot, and maybe that structure can be intimidating to people coming in. And like, because we are jiu-jitsu as a whole, and then the way we did
lackadaisical.
it. Yeah, lackadaisical. It's like, hey, just show up. Like, what? You don't have to wear anything. You don't have to bow. You don't have to do anything. Like, it's like, just come show up and see if you like it,
Yeah.
And
yeah, I can.
There's that, I guess, more friendly vibe we have.
Yeah, I'd say, I don't know if friendly is the right word. I'd say casual.
Yes, that's good.
That's
It's
more
good
casual because I'm not sure what I'm assuming. We spoke about it before again with Ben. It's like very formal judo, and some friends that I know that have their children that were previously enrolled in judo and then transitioned over to jiu-jitsu. I don't know if it's like academy based, like specifically that judo location, but they're very formal. Like you bow and you do all that stuff, and some jiu-jitsu studios do. I mean, we don't even warm up, but it's like very regimented. Like kids aren't. I don't know. Like how is that for Taekwondo? Is it pretty structured? Like I remember I did, like you have to bow, and I think for kids discipline is good, but I think for adults, like maybe like I don't want to bow to Helio on the wall or something. Like I don't know.
Yeah, so there's definitely a structure to Taekwondo where when you enter or exit, that's when you would bow, or when you see instructors, seniors, masters, you also do the same. But we definitely do a more extensive warm-up, which is something new to me when I started jiu-jitsu. It was like, oh, you guys just start drilling. All right.
That's I will say that is, I learned it from the guys at Island Top Team. And I always kind of lean that way anyway, even when I started, do 20 burpees, do some jumping jacks and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't know how this really, I don't think it's the most efficient use of your time to better your jiu-jitsu. Anyways, like I get it because a lot of people just go for a workout or to exhaust themselves or feel like they've done something. But even when I ran the warm-ups at Evans, I never did those. You know who is notorious for doing those terrible warm-ups was Jeff. Jeff would always for a very supple, cloudy man. He like would run these like drill sergeant, maybe because of his military background, but he'd run these drill sergeant warm-ups that everybody would just not enjoy. Jeff.
And he's and like from a outside perspective, if you didn't know Jeff,
he's so soft.
If you did know Jeff, like,
he's such a sweetheart.
The more you know Jeff, you're like, why? Why do you do this? But maybe it's karate too.
Yeah, it could be karate. Hard style.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way that I thought about it was you're there to learn jujitsu. So, anything that you can do by yourself or anything that you can do without mats really doesn't have too much, or without mats or without a partner, is kind of worthless. So if you want to do like push-ups and bodyweight squats or something, like you can do that anywhere. Like what you can't do is, a berimbolo or something, because you need mats, you need people that'll keep you safe. So even when I think I used to run warm-ups at PTT, but they would mostly be like, hey, let's do like partner hip is always partner drills and always like a movement, like, we do some Granby rolls or something like that up and down the mats, like something relevant that you would actually need the space, that you would need the bodies and you would need the mats for. Otherwise it's like, I
could jog outside.
Yeah. It's no different when you think about it, for that kind of stuff where you're like, for a jiu-jitsu warm-up, like would you have somebody do like dumbbell curls? Like, no, but you would make them do push-ups. It's not any different. It's not specific to jiu-jitsu. It's not like sports specific, and you can do it elsewhere.
What do you think of, and this is a very specific one, the reason behind doing cartwheels as warm-up? Is it just body control? But I found like doing a cartwheel didn't help me in any way.
So doing a cartwheel for me, I made people do them because it makes you focus on your alignment.
Gotcha.
So your postural alignment and your framing. So there's a difference between doing a garbage cartwheel, and not that I have a great cartwheel, but when I do a cartwheel, I'm fully locked out like a star. Like there's no arch in my back. I'm like a wheel, and my weight is locked out. So it teaches you for the framing of, your frames have to be done properly. But most of the people can't, like they do the, like almost like a round off where like your shoulders are here and then your hips are here.
Yeah.
But if you actually have it lined up, like straight up, like straight handstand style cartwheel, like when done properly, it has relevance to jiu-jitsu, I feel. And in my defense, you shouldn't cartwheel in your living room. Like
that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you can.
Yeah. Same with like the reason I made people do like handstand walks down the mat, because it's for your framing and your balance and your alignment. Because if your spine is torqued out weird, you're gonna collapse, right? And you're also for your center of gravity as well, which is big in what we do, right? For off balancing, for Kazushi and stuff like that. It's good. But yeah, that was it makes sense. But yeah, we don't run warm-ups anymore because I'm like, whatever.
Warm up.
Yeah. But in Taekwondo, I guess it's just different. In Taekwondo, mostly kicks, right? It's largely kick. So it's like snappy hip. You want your hip to. Jiu-jitsu's slow.
Yeah.
Mostly.
I mean, it can be slow if you want it to be slow. It can be hard if you want it to be hard.
You always want it to be slow.
You always want it to be slow, except for whatever reason. I went hard at Gilbert the other day. He was tired.
Yeah, you had to take a break.
He stopped.
You broke Gilbert.
I'm done, Josh. What did you do to me? And then he went to play pickleball. So I think he was fine.
Yeah, he's definitely
fine. I think my question for you, Lorraine, is do you find it a challenge teaching adults now? Because I know you do have some adults in your class. Do you find it's harder to structure them versus kids?
Not necessarily, but depending on the adults when they come in, like what their goals are really. Like some of them, for mainly ladies, are just for self-protection really. And so that's when you know, okay, that's what they want. But some are just like, oh, I'm here for the exercise. I want to sweat. Right. So you have to like be really aware of what your like demographic is.
So how do you balance that, knowing that's what they want, but also you kind of do have a structure involved with teaching Taekwondo, right? It's like, I can make you sweat, but if you did 100 terrible kicks, like doesn't bode well for you as a
No,
school.
no, that does not. But let's say any kind of workout doesn't have to be like a quantity. Like doing 200 of something that is mediocre is probably way worse than, let's say, if I asked for 20.
But it's like, I got a sweat on.
Oh, there's other ways around it. But yeah, aside from making them sweat, obviously, you still have to cover curriculum, but in a different way because, for example, adults, they like to know how it applies in life. There's a concept and there's an application. Whereas kids, it's like, okay, here's the fundamentals of this movement and let's go through the just body mechanics, right? So they don't actually need like a full-on description or explanation of why it's going to work and why it's not going to work. Right. So that's just the biggest difference I have currently. But yeah, so the adults I currently have, they are pretty eager to just learn some self-defense because that's their first martial arts.
Yeah.
And so at that point, they're very interested in like the cool kicks and everything.
Yeah.
But we gotta build them up.
So do you ever plan to sort of filter them into your jiu-jitsu thing or explain to them about it? Because like, I think as you get better at it, and you will because you keep doing it, you'll have a better understanding, I think. Do you think would you want to kind of have them like almost have a self-defense class mixed in with your taekwondo or
so it's more of like a mixed martial arts at this point?
It could be, but I mean they could just do jiu-jitsu in your facility, right? Is that kind of the idea?
That would be something like I'd be interested in having them like be exposed to different types instead of just, okay, here's the stand-up version and here's the ground version, right? So being able to do both and adapt would definitely benefit them. Just like how when I first started jiu-jitsu, it's like, whoa, it's a whole new world down here.
Ocean, right?
It's very different for, jiu-jitsu is my first, I guess, ground-based or grappling style martial art. And it's very, very different. Just the feeling you get. Because, I mean, the term a puncher's chance exists for a reason, right? Like you might swing and hit or swing and miss, but everybody knows how to throw a limb at something. But I think grappling, body control, like pinning someone is not as, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that because kids will wrestle each other all the time and stuff, but like efficient pinning, like how to throw a proper punch versus how to, do a proper takedown or a proper like mount control is, I think it's a little bit more involved or less intuitive, right?
Yeah.
But
it'd be like kids just use strength, right? They're like, versus if you were like efficient about it, like it's going to pin these two parts as John does.
Yeah. I'm pretty lazy. So it was good today though. I thought training was pretty solid. That's the first time we've had 4 people in that. It works.
I like the rotation actually.
Yeah. More rest.
No, it's not that. It wasn't the rest. It was
if you watch actively.
Be able to watch.
Yeah. It's exposure. So, if you're thinking about it and watching, it's good because it's active exposure and, watching what I'm doing. I think my jiu-jitsu's fairly technically sound. So I'm not catching. There's no like scrambles or whatever they call it. Everything's like, there's a reason why and you guys as well, most of you guys are moving methodically. Like there's a reason why you're doing it. You might not be doing it with a perfect technical execution, but you're also not flailing like a fish out of water either, right? Like I try to promote less wasteful movement. Like, and I'm super lazy, so I don't move unless I need to move. And even then I really weigh do I really need to move? Like, yeah, okay. Yeah. So
I feel like that's my problem right now. Like, I'm like calibrating,
Sure.
Because you even mentioned it too. It's like, oh, you're just complacent that you're in this position. It's
just eating the pressure.
Like, do I need to move? Like,
yeah,
I guess I do need to move, right? And I guess it is that kind of back and forth game with yourself of understanding as you progress in this art.
It's a continually iterative process where you're assessing and then it's just like it's active problem solving. So you have a scenario or whatever, like there's a configuration that you're in and you have to assess like, is this a problem? Is this not a problem? If it's not a problem, then you reassess again. Is this a problem now? No, it's still obviously if the situation hasn't changed, You know, like when we
I
start,
see.
the top control constraint drill is a good example where like I just start and I'm on top, and I've mentioned it a number of times. Like if you don't do anything, I'm not doing anything,
Yeah.
because why do I need to do anything, right? Once you change and you move, then I need to assess: do I need to do something? Yes or no. If it's no, then I'm just gonna wait until it
Yeah.
changes again, right? So it's a problem worth addressing kind of thing. So
Okay.
yeah, just don't. If you feel like you have to move because you have to move, that's not a good reason. If you feel like you have to move because you think there's a threat, even if there's no threat, but if you think there's a threat and you're moving, that's fine, because it'll calibrate, as you said, your
Yeah.
sensitivity. Whereas if you're just like, I gotta move because it's like, well, that's not
Yeah.
beneficial, right?
Right.
But some people will do that, like, and that's why I teach like the conceptual stuff with alignment. It's like, if you move and you adjust your mount position on me, and I do a quick reassessment of my alignment versus your alignment, if my alignment's still good, like, yes, I have to get out of the mount, but there's no urgency to do so. And if you enter it with a false sense of urgency, you might compromise your own alignment because I got to do something. No, not really, right?
Do you feel that as someone who's a little newer to jiu-jitsu, that I guess your nervous system kind of kicks in to want to, I don't say flail, but like move more? Do you feel like
Definitely.
like-
Yeah.
instinctually like, oh shit, I have to move?
Yeah.
Or-
So when, like, say the other person like has a hold or grip of something that isn't a threat, I feel like, okay, well, they did something for a reason. Like now my mind's racing and wondering what's gonna happen next, and I got to get rid of it, or else something's gonna like spiral down.
Sure.
So it's just like, okay, I think I need to do something based on the fact that they did something that may not even be a threat.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very prudent approach to it, where like they did something. You're assuming again that people know what they're doing. And jiu-jitsu has a really cool thing where it really separates the subjective and the objective, where like it doesn't matter how you feel. It's either, it might become again a threatening position or grip later, but at this very moment, like if somebody just grabs my collar, I know, and we talked about it with the guard retention, like an appropriate response for the level of threat. So if you grab my collar and I, dive into an Imanari roll, like it's probably not going to be a good thing to do. I don't even know if you could do that, but just
The gi comes off.
like as soon as you do something, I'm going to hit the nuclear button and be like, ha. But if you grab my collar and I do like a threat assessment, which I think comes with experience, it's like, I know if you get this collar grip, it opens you up. You're starting down the pathway of systems to whatever, like a big throw or something. But how bad is it right now? And how does it sit on the priority list of what else can be done, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
That's
I think
about
that
right,
just
yeah.
comes with time. Whereas right now, you get grabbed and you're like, this guy's grabbing me, and it's a threat because he's grabbing me, right?
Yeah. So it's more of a reaction based on their action right now.
Yeah.
It's just, oh, you grab, okay, then I got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Fix that problem right off the bat.
But I'm assuming with your experience, your wealth of experience in Taekwondo, if whether it's parts, like if people do stuff that you're probably at the level where people do stuff that's like, it doesn't make sense. You just like, I ignore a lot of stuff. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, all right, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. For Taekwondo, like, or any other martial arts striking, if they're not hitting and making contact, there's no need to worry.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But it's the same. I think it's cool that you are like such an expert in this and then like a beginner in this, because I think that's why people like yourself will advance at a more accelerated pace, because it's a different game, but you're like a gamer, you know how to play games, right? You know what I mean? It's like if you're really good at Street Fighter, you're probably okay at Tekken or something. Well, maybe that's about it. I was just 3D, 2D. Anyways, but like you understand how the mechanics work. And I think that's like the mechanics in this case being the human body. Like it's not like when I do Taekwondo, I grow an extra leg or something. Although that would be pretty sweet.
Tail whip.
In jiu-jitsu, you do. You put on the gi, you grow a tail.
Oh God.
The lapel.
Lapel
right? So
stuff.
that's kind of
So
cool.
I love it, but I also fucking hate it so much.
It's just an extra thing to
It is like I'm still in the mindset of no-gi a lot of the time, and then I forget that this person has a grip on this certain part, and I'm like, fuck. Like I move and I put myself out of alignment. Like Corey today, like I thought I had advanced the position, but I wasn't paying attention because he's got my pant and not my physical like ankle, and I can't go anywhere. It's like, oh yeah, there's extra friction, right? It's like
extra
there's things
holds,
in the way.
I enjoy. I like training with the gi more because it's a more. I like it because it's slow and I'm lazy, and it's a more complicated game. Not that I don't grip up that much.
No. But you take the ones that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm excessively committed to destroying my fingers. Like,
oh hell no.
Some people. I think the only thing I would say about gi jiu-jitsu being a negative for beginners would be you are afforded the ability to like isometrically just like squeeze your balls off because you don't. Again, it's that what you feel like doing versus what you should be doing. What you should be doing is probably not squeezing hard, but subjectively your emotions are like, I'm scared. I'm just like, it's something I can do. So I'm going to do it. I'm just going to squeeze my balls off and burn.
Yeah.
Because it's, I don't know, it's a fight or flight instinct or something like that, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, when I first went to judo, not long ago, like what, 3 weeks ago, they just throw you in the deep end. And if I didn't know jiu-jitsu stuff, I guess kind of like the opposite side of Ben, like if he didn't know judo and came to jiu-jitsu, it'd be like a whole different ballgame for him.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
But going backwards the other way, it's like I'm thrown in the deep end of like doing the same things these black belts and like higher belts are doing with like no remorse. They're like, bam, right? It's like, oh, okay. I don't know if it's a school. I don't know if it's just maybe the school itself. There's no intro. You throw on the gi, go. Like line up, do it.
Yeah.
And I can see that'd be very daunting for beginners. And where I think that's where jiu-jitsu is very accessible for someone who knows nothing. Is where you can come in shorts and t-shirts and be like, hey, I'm going to show you how to get someone off your chest. Right?
Sure.
You don't need to know this grip. You don't need to know this. Like it's you're just using what you got, right?
Yeah.
And it's less, I don't want to say less scary because someone is on top of you. And a lot of people have a problem with just general contact.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Physical contact. And so I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
I think you can. I mean, I've coached. I've taught some kids. I've taught adults. Haven't taught any seniors yet. But I think it depends.
Does Gilbert count?
He's
no, he doesn't. He doesn't get a discount, so it doesn't.
Okay,
it's only for a discount. I think one of the things about, like, we had a new member, Joe's girlfriend, Summer.
Yeah.
So she came, and then again, I taught the regular lesson, and then we went over the beginner basics with her. But there are beginner things that you should know, at least at our club. Like, I went over the concept of alignment. I went over frames and levers. Some of the other stuff like center of gravity, force vectors, touched on a little bit. But then we were able to just play a couple games. So we played like the foot stomp game, we played the knee tap game, and we played the head to toe game where you lie down on the flat. These are all kids games, but they're really fun because you head to toe and you just try to score a mount or, was it back control or close guard. But I find like just the accessibility, jiu-jitsu is easier to pick up because if you give these limited rules and you tell children or even adults to do it, they can do they monkey around in what looks like that's grappling, that's jiu-jitsu, like they're doing it kind of intuitively. Whereas I think if you threw on pajamas and put two guys together and said like, hey, throw this guy, I don't think it would like, you can't just intuitively like fudge it out, you know?
No, it's so technical.
Yeah.
So technical.
I don't know how wrestling's like. Maybe I think like the knee tap game in wrestling, where the one where you're just in stance, you tap the knee, or the one where you're in the bear crawl position and you pull out the other guy's arm, like stuff like that is, or even the rooster tail game where you tuck a rooster in the back of the pants, like a rag or something, and you just like, you can kind of intuitively wrestle. I think human, like as monkeys, we're good at wrestling. We're okay at throwing, and I would argue like throwing hands and legs, like kicking, is actually very technical because
Yes.
our we're not strong. Like we can strike, but I don't think that's our primary thing.
No, I think just because all your limbs are so extended.
Yeah.
That's like a really far extension from your actual body. So it's harder to control.
Yes.
And I guess also the success rate,
Yeah.
if you don't know and don't technically do it properly,
Yeah.
then the hitting rate is very low. And at
Yeah.
that point, recovery is a lot harder.
Yeah. I
and
think
gas hard. I mean, you're just throwing.
like if you watch monkeys fight, which we're monkeys, like if you watch monkeys fight, monkeys aren't kicking and punching each other. They're like, well, maybe monkey.
They're grabbing a lot.
I haven't seen a monkey ground and pound another monkey, but I don't watch a lot of monkey fights. I'm gonna have to look into this monkey fights. But if you look at the way that animals fight, and that's what we are, animals. Like I don't. Maybe like a gorilla will swing at another, but they're mostly wrestling each other. Like even if you look at the way dogs and stuff, like they're nipping, but they're rolling around, and it's like
it's very controlled. Obviously, violence.
Oh, you look at like bears play, like they're wrestling. They're not, slamming each other in the face or kicking like Kenpo style.
What about ungulates like moose and deer? They just smash each other.
Well, even then, if you look at it, what they're doing,
wrestling. They're wrestling.
They're wrestling with they're tying up, right? So if you've seen like wrestlers collar tie each other
That's
and then
true.
they're headbutting and stuff, like, there's a lot of headbutting because if you grab each other's hands and stuff, your head's the only point of contact, and you're trying to like pivot off to get an angle. So I'd argue like even those like quadruped animals, they're trying to get that angle.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To get that perpendicular angle so they can drive. So I think striking is difficult and technical in that way, and throwing it's high stakes, right? Too.
Yeah. Like just the other day, right? Like just practicing on your own. If you throw a really hard punch, like you will be off, and you don't know what you're doing. So, for example, like you'll be off balance, and then you're dead, right? Like if you miss and you fall, and then that person gets on top of you and just goes blah 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 blah, and you don't know what you're doing on the ground, then it's game over. So that chance that you're taking to throw that punch and you don't know where you're gonna land, it's like you said, a puncher's chance.
Yeah.
It's pretty risky to throw that punch sometimes.
Yeah, actually, maybe Lorraine, I've heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but they say if you throw a punch like full force, meaning to strike, and you miss, like I've only done like pad hitting and stuff where I'm hitting something, so it doesn't exhaust your cardio as much as if you whiff it. You know what I mean? Is that a real thing? Like if you throw a bomb and you miss, it's bad, right?
It's definitely like the recoil of it. And just throwing your whole body out of alignment.
Yeah.
And
is it because you're throwing so hard, you're not making contact, and then you have to like use your own energy system to like
to retract.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay. Yeah. So
anytime you really miss a kick, even when you're kicking paddles and kicking targets, but you miss, it's a lot more taxing than if you actually hit that person in the body or whatnot.
That makes so much sense.
I wonder if it's the same for judo, where like if you initiate a big, but you're so close, you're probably gonna eat something. Like the guy will break absorb some of your.
Yeah. From my very, very, very limited experience, if you don't do it, it's a weird opposite. Whereas if you don't do it fast, it's worse.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of just have to go.
Ben was saying that it's like a very small. Yeah, he said it was very
such
athletic.
a small window of opportunity,
and that's probably part of the accessibility too, because like he was saying, like you don't want to start judo when you're like 50. Like it's
no, but the majority of the people who are there, I would say, are older.
But they probably started young.
But they started,
maybe. Because Ben said he started like 19, and that's considered old. He said he was entering the sport when most people were exiting.
I don't know. I feel like the middle belts are on the older side.
Yeah, okay.
And there's very few young people.
Yeah.
There's like one kid.
Maybe at that club.
Yeah, in that club specifically.
Yeah. Which one are you at?
Minoru? Sorry, not Burnaby. Bonzer, sorry.
Oh, Bonzer.
Bonzer.
Okay.
So Burnaby
Judo Club.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very, very nice. And it's very it's not casual for sure. Like,
Yeah.
and I didn't know who to bow to, what to bow to.
Bow to everything.
Had to like change my
hello.
flip flops like one way and the other thing, and I was like, oh, okay.
Man.
But they were nice enough to let me use my jiu-jitsu gi because I didn't have a gi.
Yeah, that's kind
They're
of
like, oh, that's such a nice gi. It's like, it's not a judo gi.
I mean, I will say at our club, we do have rules. I'm a big advocate of no shoes on the mat is a pretty common one, and no bare feet off the mat, like have sandals. Yeah. I mean, Owen's gym is different because we take off our shoes right there and you can't have bare feet off the mat. But I think for people who come from like a stand-up sport, I noticed this with like Muay Thai guys or whatever, like it's not a respect thing, but they don't treat the hygiene of the mat the same as grapplers do because your face is not getting mushed into it. I think once you get a taste of that, because he was like, oh, you know, I remember Evan and Eden was really, he's a real drill sergeant about it, as he should be, for like people with bare feet off the mat at PTT anyway. Like there's sandals for you to wear, or you can wear your shoes off the mat. It's fine. Just like, but I think it's one of those things like that's the only rule that, you know, because if you're going to grind my face into this, like, would you grind my face outside on the concrete? Hopefully not. Or in the mud. Like, I don't want to do that. It's just
I'd rather
dirty,
the mud than the concrete.
Yeah, that's true. But that's the only rule I think that our gym, or like I personally enforce, is like, please. And I think it's a good rational reason. Like, I just don't want bacteria on my face. Like, you're already grinding my face into the mat. At least keep it clean.
But you know what? I think that's a cultural thing. We're all Asians here, by the way. I think it's a cultural thing where our club is mostly Asians. So it's not a big shocker to us because we don't wear shoes in the house. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't. Right? That's the thing, right? We don't wear shoes in the house. Yeah. You have house slippers if you do wear shoes in the house that do not touch outside.
My parents wear house slippers. I'm just barefoot all the time.
My feet are just too hot. I sweat. But maybe that's a thing too. Like, but I don't feel like it's a hard rule. Like, oh my God, if I do it. Yeah. It's not, doesn't hit me in the chest. Like,
it's just, I don't want to get a skin infection. And I've been training. I've never gotten anything, like no scares of staph or ringworm or anything, just because I shower. I popped up and took a shower when you guys were still training. I'm like, these guys are still going. I'm going to go take a shower.
Yeah. Corey wanted to monkey fight.
Yeah, that's okay. But yeah, it's just, I think, you know, I've been training for 14 years, almost 15 years now. So it must be doing something right. I think it's like training with the type of people you train with. And also like we clean the mats and I take a shower after. But yeah, that's the only rule I think is I remember Eden was pretty diligent on that as well. Nothing like that for Taekwondo, right? They don't have to.
Oh, you're pretty diligent.
Well, no mats, no shoes on the mats, obviously.
Yeah, for sure, no shoes. And like how my space is organized usually is just shoes, no shoes past a certain point.
Yeah, really. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
So that's just mitigates a lot of problems because you know, with the cultural differences, some people are used to stepping, I guess, all over their house with shoes and whatnot.
Or some people are used to being barefoot, like all over the place too.
Yeah, that's another problem. Right?
Inside, outside, everywhere. Like, But I think it makes sense to me objectively if you explain like this is why you don't want to put bacteria. Or I don't know what's the best solution. Like, I think everybody at the club's pretty good, but another thing is like the only other thing I can think of is like you could barefoot, but put like wipes or something by the mat so you wipe your feet before you get on there. It's just like you want to keep bacteria off the mats so it doesn't get ground into my eyeball and I have pink eye for weeks. Or what's that? EK? No, the one that Keenan got that's really bad. It's like super pink eye. It's like EKC or something like that.
Yeah, there's super pink eye.
Yeah, it's bad. You don't want super pink eye.
You don't want that. But if you look at his gym, man, there's like sweat everywhere all the time.
Oh, Legion?
Yeah.
I think that's another thing, like with a big membership. And again, one of the things that I appreciate about our club, it's like it's invite only. It's only, you know, we haven't kicked anybody out yet. But I would feel like if you injure someone, or if you bring like a contractable disease, like, hey, who brought in the Corey? Yeah. Like, I don't think he actually had ringworm. I'm pretty confident. No, he didn't. He just had like, I feel bad. I think it was just because I was gripping his wrist too hard and I left like a rash or a bruise or something. Because that happens in no-gi. When you grab the wrist, you'll get like marks and like there's like from some, I don't know.
You should get them on biceps from the, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
the lasso, actually, we practiced a little bit of that, and I got like a whole bruise on the tricep, both sides.
One of the things that, I know Eden will hate me, but one of the things that is garbage about the gi is pinching. When people pinch you. But that could be absolved by having proper, like, it happens when people are rushed into grabbing stuff and they just like just kind of mangle something. But if you take the time to like scoop with your finger and have Eden loves the gi.
Yeah, he likes to.
Yeah, but yeah, pinching is one of my one of the things that one of the cons of the gi. Like you get pinched. Oh, it's like I'm a sissy, man. It doesn't matter. You could be like grueling in a fight. If you pinch like my inner bicep, I'm like, oh god. It's like on par with stepping on Lego.
I think the other day I was rolling with Joe and I just fell.
Yeah.
Like faced out on my elbow, but the gi material had like caught my elbow skin.
Yeah.
It felt like I got cut up.
Yeah.
I had to check myself, but it was nothing. It was just like the sheer friction and twisting of that thing with the gi.
Yeah, the gi. Get a thicker gi. Nobody ever pinches me in my tank gi.
Well,
Nobody can even grab that thing. But the lighter weight gis, it's like, the inside bicep is the worst. Outside the triceps, okay. The inner thigh, when people grab your pants, is painful too. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, because they go like this.
Yeah, but you know, I hate it a lot. Again, because I'm a sissy, so whenever I grab, I make sure I don't pinch, because it's like, you know, the old golden rule: do unto others as you would have done unto you. But yeah, stupid gi.
I still sometimes forget that the gi is there, and I don't grip.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I don't grip up very much.
And like frame on people's wrists. Oh, I grab wrists, but I don't grab collars as much as I probably should, and I don't grab the cuffs and stuff as much as I should. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna go for your wrists. Like I'm just so used to. I like it better because I don't get my grip.
Yeah, I do as well. I will grab the collar for finishes or control. I will grab the lapel. Yeah. I was inspired by watching some of that Leandro Low stuff. I'm like, yeah, I should grab like his low guard, which is basically a De La Hiva and a pant leg grip and a spider hook. And then I was like, yeah, that looks cool. And then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, oh, like, yeah, maybe not.
It's like, you're gonna get those hands, you know?
Those Harry Potter wizard wand fingers, like the Meow Brothers. Did your fingers start hurting when you started training?
No. I think
you're one of the lucky ones.
I wasn't like crazy on like, okay, let's take the hardest grip I can possibly have and try to wreck some fingers. Because I guess I started with very weak fingers to begin with. So I'm like, okay, let's be really diligent on how I'm going to grip.
We started no-gi.
When you first came in.
Yeah.
So we never gave her, like, accessibility of, I guess, taking away that advantage of someone new to just like lock down.
Yeah.
Because it's not there.
Yeah.
Right? And then so now that she's, I think, did it long enough without the gi to begin with.
Yeah, it built some good habits.
It builds the good habits of like, okay, I don't need this to be safe, you know?
Yeah.
Which is kind of I think a good idea.
I remember, there's some built-in stuff like that where I know Rob from Island Top Team talked about how in the beginning he doesn't let white belts use a close guard because it'll hinder your development because it feels safe. And it is a safe position. It's good. Ben loves close guard. But it's like if you lock up the close guard, you get this sense of security, which it is secure, but it's not impenetrable. Like people can defeat it. But it gives you a false sense of, again, it's like you might not be doing the right thing, but it's something to do and you can do it. You can absolutely isometrically lock your legs together and squeeze your balls off and buy time, which will give you the false impression that you are making progress in your jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Where if you're using attributes or strength or athleticism, that's great. You're working on those attributes, but you're not working on your jiu-jitsu, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I believe he has a thing where it's like, don't teach close guard.
Yeah.
Until you're a blue belt or you shouldn't use it.
I think he had like a fundamentals class or something. I think that's what it was.
Yeah,
and
I
then like
can't
once
remember.
you're done there, then
Yeah.
even if you're, I think it's like maybe
Yeah,
two
I
stripes or
draw a lot
something.
of
Yeah.
stuff. I really liked his
Yeah, I
style.
like
And
Rob's stuff.
it's good. That's largely the teaching material we use. Some of the down hair stuff too is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, guard retention is almost done. So, but the general is almost done. We have Sunday to go over a couple more movements, and then it will be either specifics, which is not a bad thing, or I haven't really given. I've been just mostly focusing on eating pizzas and
Wrestling. It's wrestling
stuff.
time. Let's just do wrestling.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not qualified to teach
No.
wrestling on any level. So we maybe have to bring in a
Let's
specialist.
just put it to a vote. See what people want to learn.
Yeah.
I'm
See.
pretty easygoing about things now because
I think with the guard retention completed, we'll have a good fundamental set.
Yeah.
So I base it off someone like Gilbert, who came in pretty. He's been with it since the beginning. So he went through, pin escapes. He went through back escapes. He went through top control. He went through back control. He went through sweeps, and now he's going through guard retention. So that's 6 modules. So he's, I feel like he's a good, well-rounded individual now. So like a good beginning to end base level club member. The only problem with that is like with Lorraine, you came in halfway through and then you're gone for a little bit. Or like Lavana and then jumped in. But it's different because some of you guys had previous experience.
Yeah.
So even with Summer now, like she's at the end of almost starting at the end of guard retention. So like, yeah, if we go into something else, well, that's why I think it is nice that we have all our content filmed and up there. Whether people want to watch it or not is up to them.
Yeah. I think going through maybe the constraint drill stuff is still very beneficial even for someone new because that allows them to get a grasp on basically the fundamentals because they're all ingrained in all those positions. And then they can go refer back to the videos or refer back to a question, like, where should I put my elbow from being in mount? Let's say go all the way back to the beginning. Like, okay. Let's go from there because they were put in that position without the fear of person A strangling them, right?
Sure.
Because we're learning cross collar choke or something like that. But we don't. But then that would scare the crap out of someone brand new, right? But because we have the constraint stuff, if they purely just wanted to constraint drill the whole time, that alone will build them into the system of like, okay, now you can filter back to the actual specifics of mount escape and use that in the drills instead of it being its own thing. It would be great if we could just recycle and everyone go back through the whole thing again. But, that's unmanageable.
Yeah. I mean, the dream would be to have more than one instructor role coach person that's able to like what I did the other last week for summer. That's a perfect example of like and like I apologize for not making myself more available to you guys but it's like it's like a one-man band, right?
I think we understand though.
Yeah, because I value Summer as a new member. Like I want to make sure she's off to a good start.
Yeah.
And I think the membership understands like I would have done the same for you if it was your first day. So you got to kind of, unless somebody wants to step up and take on that role to teach like beginners concepts and stuff, which is really good because I'm sure as an instructor, like the more you teach, the better you get yourself, right?
Yeah.
But that's like the club is like, that's my dream where like at the end, I don't have to do anything anymore.
That's the goal.
Right. And I'm sure it's you, like you probably have, instructors or coaches that like mentor under you. But yeah, as like, do you find that sometimes it's hard to do it all? Like you can't accommodate for everybody. So it'd be good to get cause you started halfway kind of in, maybe you have some thoughts or like what's a good way to solve this problem?
I don't know. I guess based on like how I've been instructing for the other programs, Originally, the classes were very large before COVID, so it can range up to like 35 students at one point. Obviously, there's only one of me, and that one-man band isn't going to work. So that's when all the instructors and the assistants will come in. You really have to mentor them through just coaching through a smaller group or a more controlled group where you know they can handle it. And then eventually you get them bigger groups. And that's when they can really they're not going to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like you have that issue at your club.
Right.
Because it's a much smaller,
Mm-hmm.
And also being mostly adults, you're not going to have that one odd kid that's going to be running around and then the whole group gets thrown off.
That kid is Max.
It does, Max.
So yeah, I think it's going to be a very controlled environment where you have having someone that is comfortable running through some drills is probably good practice for them, just because maybe they don't practice it because they don't really need to, because it's just ingrained already. But just knowing how to communicate that information also solidifies their concepts as well.
Yeah, I find I definitely find teaching or trying to explain, I won't say I'm teaching, but trying to explain a concept is very beneficial for me to see whether I actually understand it.
Yeah. So I would actually challenge maybe some of those more experienced jujitsu, and maybe just okay, well, take your stab at explaining something and see how much they can. How much they retain from what you taught them.
Yeah. No, it's good. I think, do you ever get as a coach and as a competitor, maybe if you're not competing, I don't know, but do you ever get that sense? Because I get it often where, on one hand, I'm trying to, get everybody good, train your training partners so they can be good training partners and stuff. But it also feels like sometimes that sense of, whether it's right or wrong, you feel like I'm focusing a lot on training, I'm not focusing on my own training, and it's how do you deal with that, or has that thought crossed your mind?
It's crossed my mind a couple more times than it should the last couple years, because I have tried to make a comeback slowly,
right?
But that has slowed because I do have to spend more time on the competitors and students that also want to do the same, and developing them is always my priority. So anytime leftover is for myself. So how much leftover time, that depends on.
As you're of a high level. Do you ever get? I don't know how it compares, but my level in jiu-jitsu is pretty standard. I'm not really good. I'm pretty baseline. So I have this. I don't know if it's a real fear or a rational fear, but I'm if I can't keep improving, then eventually I can't help these people. You know what I mean? Because let's say, again, you say your priority is to get your competitors high, but if it is one of those things where as a coach, I'm very happy when my students or people I've taught are successful. I want them to be more successful than me. But there is a sense where I feel if I don't focus on my own training and if I can't get better, then I can't help them get better. And then I become not useful. I don't know.
I don't believe that, just from the sheer fact that John down here does not compete.
Oh, okay.
Right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
But he has made a decision because he physically cannot compete. So he's not competing. Same boat. That he's going to put all his time into his students, and those are, and also his spare time is researching to
just
be better,
videos.
As a teacher,
Yeah.
to make his students that much better.
Yeah,
right?
but I think my concern is that, number one, I'm not John Danaher.
Yeah,
and the second thing is he and the thing you mentioned is he's all in on this boat of coaching. He has no, whereas I still enjoy practicing. So I don't know. Do you ever get that feeling where you need to keep yourself here so you can help these guys get here? But I think of it as the more experience bringing up. But it's almost if you have a higher level, you can keep pulling them up. If your level continues to improve, it's either easier to pull up than to push from the bottom, if that makes sense.
Yes. So what I've thought of in the past would be like, okay, I got to continue to progress and improve in some way so that I can close the gap between like us, say my students and myself, but still I'd be ascending as they move up. But the gap would definitely close because they're going to be improving faster than I will be.
Yeah.
But eventually it's like, well, we might be really close to par, but the goal
But then
is
they
to
become a
still-
really good training partner because you can kind of go up together, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I would say that's definitely been a challenge to be like, okay, spend the time for myself so that it's not a one-way street really, where it's like, okay, I'm going to be here for a long time and everyone's going to come up at that point. So
because I'm sure you have to work with like complete beginners.
Definitely. Yeah.
And, or, you know, like, how many belts are in Taekwondo? I don't even remember.
There's
Different for each club, but a standard one would be white, yellow, green, blue, red, and then black. And then some clubs, they either have stripes in between the belts or they have a different color.
6. How many jiu-jitsu have? 5.
Yeah.
5. So that's not, I mean, do kids have extra belts or no?
They don't have, everyone starts off at white belt, but because some of the preschool is split up into like different sections, just because it is so hard for them to remember and retain everything and then take that test to promote to somewhat of a reward. For them to attain the second belt, it would be like, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. And at that point, they might have lost a whole lot of, they might be discouraged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's funny you say that about kids? I think adults care about stripes and belts more than kids do sometimes.
Yeah, totally. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny because when I'm training with CJ and he was like, "Oh, you guys are definitely showing improvements and worthy of that stripe," and I'm like, "Ooh, stripe? That never crossed my mind until
carrot,
all right. Yeah, all right,
yeah.
I'll take it."
Do you guys have, like, at our club, I haven't put a stripe or a belt on anyone, just because, you know, at the end of the day, we're not a real school, and I'm not legitimate. But it's kind of one of those things where I've been thinking about it or whatever. I have kind of I have requirements, and I've posted them on the Discord. Like, this is, and I don't know. I guess I believe in the fact that if we're part of a club and you want to be promoted in this club under myself, then you have to tell me like, hey, what do I need to get my next stripe, or what? And then I'll tell you. So that's, nobody's done that for me yet or to me. So I'm not going to do anything for anyone.
Right.
But I think, like, is there something, I'm assuming Taekwondo has something like, when there must be requirements from white belt to yellow. Is it yellow?
Yeah.
Yeah. So from white belt, you have like, you got to be able to like, do a flow splits and a backflip or like something. Right?
Yeah,
like,
nobody's getting this yellow belt then.
Yeah.
Yes, there's definitely requirements, like a set standard as to like, okay, this is the form you need to know. This is the kicks. These are the new kicks for this belt level.
Yeah.
And this is a set of, we call step sparring or self-defense, where you have to know and be able to like carry it out either by yourself or with a partner, depending on their age group. But you definitely have to know those things and be able to do them well. Just remembering them is one thing. Like, sure, you can remember like 20 steps in order, sequence. That's great. But like, how well can you do it? That's the other thing. So setting a baseline for how they perform.
Right.
Okay.
Is there a set timeline from, if, I guess it differs for age? Because I think a lot of the karate and taekwondo, they get some flack sometimes for like, oh, you have this like 8-year-old black belt, and it's like, is that kid really a black belt? Like, but is there like a set timeline for like how long? Like jiu-jitsu, kind of, it's different now because people are just doing like crazy volume training where they're getting a black belt in 3 years, and they are legitimate. But in jiu-jitsu, it was kind of like, I'd say like 12 to 24 months per belt. So for me, I had my white belt for like a year and a bit, blue belt for like a year and a bit, maybe 2 years. I had my purple belt for like 4 years. And then I had my brown belt for like 2. So I was roughly around for jiu-jitsu, it's roughly a decade, 10 years. Is Taekwondo like different, and how does that like, flow through?
Based on what I know, like the color belt system, there isn't really a set standard as to how long you need to be as at a certain level to promote, but it's more so like how frequent you go to class.
Yeah.
Some depending, I guess, in the summer they may attend like 5 days a week, let's say.
Yeah.
Then they can progress faster during that period.
Sure.
But lower levels we split the belt levels in beginner, intermediate, advanced.
Okay.
So at that point, beginners, they will not take as long as say a red belt and pretty close to black belt, right? So I would say if you're consistently attending classes once, let's say twice a week, you should be able to, and provided that you practice or retain things, I would say half a year is where usually it's a good ballpark as to like where you should be advancing maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
That's like consistent training though.
Okay.
But black belts, there's a standard as to how far apart you can promote to the next belt level, and very similar to I think what you mentioned earlier, it gets exponentially higher.
Yeah.
So first degree to second degree, I believe the standard is 1 year, but second degree to third degree, I think it's 2 years, and then it doubles.
Okay,
I think it
going,
doubles
right.
every.
And what's the maximum, like, when do you become Helio Gracie?
So there's a 9th degree black
Okay.
belt living, and then the 10th is honorary. In Canada, I guess in BC, I only know a handful of 9th Dan grandmasters.
That's pretty cool though. They can get there.
If you get to say 6 and you just stop training, do you just lose all the dans?
No, you don't really lose it. I guess you just keep that 6.
But like if you don't do anything, you don't maintain it, you come back, hey, I'm a 6th Dan, like Taekwondo black belt. Like, are you really?
I think it's also like your work. It's a recognition of the work.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not taking it away from you, but are you real? It's like, I guess black belts and black belts.
Well, if you take a sports car from like the 80s, like the fastest car in the 80s, like, is it still a fast car? Yes. But is it the fastest car? No.
But if the driver stopped driving and then got back in the new car, are they just as good?
I don't know.
You stop driving altogether.
Well, even in jiu-jitsu, it's like the guys in jiu-jitsu, it's interesting because it's not even like whether you practice, it's like the game. So if you have super fundamentals, like if you ever watch there's different competitions in jiu-jitsu, but it's like there's something called the Masters Worlds.
Yeah.
So it's like old people jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So old people jiu-jitsu, if you watch a match in there, and I watched it live. I was in LA for it. I watched the Masters World, and it's pretty cool. It's like watching early 90s jiu-jitsu in like 2013, 2014. But it's like, because these old guys, they do the same thing. They do it up to a high level, and it's cool. Whereas, like at Masters World, there was no double guard pull. There was no berimbolo.
Yeah.
It was just like stack pass, like Toriano, like old school jiu-jitsu. And it's hard to say like whether it's effective or not, right? So I don't know how competitive Taekwondo, like the meta is, but jiu-jitsu is always like, what's the hotness, the latest, like whatever the trend is. Like, oh, it was foot locks. Now it's wrestling up. Oh, now it's like, I don't know.
What is it going to be next?
Yeah.
I think there's more of a trend for sparring side of the Taekwondo sport. So people tend to gravitate towards what is considered the new trend, where it's like, oh, use front leg and like flick your leg.
Yeah. Like the
as
meta,
many
right?
times
Like,
as you can.
Yeah.
It's like games, you know?
Yeah, it is like games.
Yeah.
Like, what's the best build right now?
Yeah.
It's like for this patch.
This is the meta.
Yeah.
AP champions. It's like the new footlock, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
No,
spam.
I think it's wrestling up.
Now it is.
It's pinning and wrestling up and stuff. But yeah, okay. But for forms, not as much. I guess.
Usually the headquarters in Korea, they would, I guess, revisit the rules and all the movements annually, maybe. And then they would always update the rule book and say, this is now the new standard or whatever. And there's always minor changes every year. Not that the sport really changed. So I'm not really sure why something's better 1 year and then the next year something else is better.
Could you imagine a form version of jiu-jitsu? It's like berimbolo competition, like where you do the best berimbolo.
Yeah, that'd be
You know?
actually, you know what? It would probably be good for like technical dissection and instructionals, because that's what they are.
Yeah.
They form. It's like, in wushu when they do those crazy like whipping the knives at each other, like that shit's cool, man. Like I would totally just stab myself. So props for people doing stuff that I couldn't do. I couldn't do that. Like the spear stuff, like
I think anything on a rope scares me because I have no control.
Yeah,
like,
that's true too.
I flick it there. Yeah. Is it gonna come back? And
yeah, like the
dart.
The dart rope thing. Yeah. But I don't know. That's one thing that's unique about most martial arts is like I think karate has forms and stuff. I don't know. Do the I don't think judo does. Judo's just dummying each other.
No. But wushu definitely has very extensive forms too.
There's other, like, what about like hapkido and stuff? That's like,
I think they have it as well, but they're also very close to like more so judo style. Where they just really go at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, hapkido is interesting.
It's kind of a blend, right?
Yeah.
Of, like two things because they do throws, right? I think Evan is a hapkido black belt as well, so he had a background in that before, from what I understand.
Maybe it's the one my cousin went to, but they were for their testing. They had to do jumps to like jump over and 3 chairs and land and roll.
Oh,
yeah.
They're notorious for like during demonstrations, they would jump over a very large distance and then roll out of it.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, this is intense.
That's legit. That's like gymnastics.
As
an 8-year-old.
You can jump over 3 cars and not die.
That's like a once in a lifetime skill where like this is gonna come in handy. There's this one scenario where I can demonstrate that I can leap over 3 cars and tuck and roll and be okay.
You're a stunt man.
Yeah, I guess so. But in like life situation, I feel like it's like
you're like searching it out. It's like,
yeah,
Jen, I gotta do this.
Maybe it's better going under.
Yeah, just crawl through. That's like funny.
It's like when you see people play like GTA. You see those memes, like there's a ramp. There's just those trailers that are down.
Yeah,
you look at it like,
and then in real life,
I can drive my car up that.
Jen does that sometimes. I think there's been an instance where she's like, yeah, hit the round like Fast and Furious style. I'm like, no, this is.
We can do it, John. I swear.
God, that's probably a good place to put a pin in it now.
We're
talking about Grand Theft Auto.
We're in Grand Theft Auto.
So thanks for coming out to train, and thanks for. It's really cool to get your insight as a fellow like coach, and just it's nice because I feel like as an instructor, some of the concerns that like we talked about, I'm like, my FOMO or whatever. It's like, it's good to see like other people and it's like universal kind of thing. Like everybody feels the same. But yeah, we'll hopefully get you back out more, and I'll talk to Imri about changing Sunday classes back to 11.
Yeah, Amy. It's a little demanding.
You should come for Sundays at least for lunch then, because that's usually when we're eating.
I can, but I feel bad. It's like, well, I didn't train. Why am I coming to eat?
You train, sort of.
I think the club is, everybody, nobody's called to complain and nickel and dime me, be like, hey, you bought pizza. And I wasn't there for it. Like, okay. Like,
no, but it just makes sense that like, I put some time into training and sweating, and it's like, okay, well now
I see. You just don't want to be a fatso. I see.
Okay.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
I'll be like, okay, we trained hard. Now we're gonna eat hard.
Sometimes you just gotta be a fatso. I ate like 8 slices of pizza that day.
Yeah, I had 6 that day.
I was a super fatso.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I did not feel good after.
Did you eat a bowl of pasta before, like Corey? Yeah, I actually was really tired too.
I felt okay, but I was like, I'm so tired. I don't know why.
Yeah, because you worked out hard, and then now you're working out your digestive system to eat all this. That pizza's good, but it's pretty heavy.
Yeah,
but it's okay. But yeah, you should come out, even if anytime you can make it, it's okay. And we're so casual that like if you gotta show up late or you gotta leave early, like nobody really cares.
I think the mats were out too for a while, so you could have just got your round.
Owen put them away himself. My God.
I know. I mean, he can.
Yeah,
he's been doing it for so long.
He's the only person who can do it. I'd probably just get stuck in a mid jerk and just like collapse underneath the weight. But
I think Joe could do it.
Yeah, Joe's a strong fellow.
Yeah.
I could do up my home mats. That's about it. All right, cool. Well, thanks, guys.
Cool. All right, thank you.
Thanks, John.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, John.